Spider-Man No Way Home is the newest film starring everyone's favorite arachnid-powered superhero. Today, let's take a look at the highest grossing Spider-Man films. We're going to be looking at the main theatrical release films, so sorry if you're a fan of the 1977 Spider-Man TV movie, we will not be covering this one. Now, throw on your mask and get your web slingers. It's time to get started and see who swings high and who drops like Gwen Stacy. Starting off our list, we have the lowest grossing yet highest reviewed Spider-Man film. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was the 2018 animated movie starring a wide array of Spider-Men. Spider-People? Men, women, robots, and pigs. Armed with the lowest budget of our only $90 million. This film was able to gross $375 million worldwide. This is quite a nice chunk of change, and the numbers only get bigger from here. While it didn't make as much as some of the others on this list, the critic and audience reviews are some of the best. This film brought in an interesting animation style, a fresh take on old characters, the great Nicolas Cage, and a pretty funny after-credit scene. The next lowest grossing film on our list is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Released in 2014, this stars Andrew Garfield in the iconic role of Peter Parker, Jamie Foxx as Electro, and Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, who took to her role with breakneck speed. Unfortunately, her role along with the rest of the franchise were dropped. This film had the second highest budget of all the films with an impressive $250 million. With it was able to bring in over $708 million. A third and fourth film for the series were in the talk, but in early 2015, a deal was made between Marvel and Sony, resulting in the cancellation of any future Amazing Spider-Man films. The sixth highest grossing Spider-Man on our list is starring Andrew Garfield once again. The Amazing Spider-Man had an amazing run at the box office, bringing in $758 million on a $230 million budget. This film actually had competent police who landed their shots. This helped answer the age-old question of who wins, 7-foot regenerating lizard man or machine guns. Taking the middle spot is Spider-Man 2 from the Raimi trilogy. Turning $200 million into $780 million was certainly a feat. You'd almost need 4 robot-armed tentacle things to carry that much money. Back in 2004, this masterpiece was the second outing for Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. This movie was so good, it even had Joey freaking Diaz make an appearance. After all, he couldn't really go on Joe Rogan's podcast because Joe was still hosting Fear Factor. The powerhouse that started it all is up next, carrying forward with superhero effort to turn $139 million into $825 million all the way back in 2002. Spider-Man starring Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. This meme-inspiring film was the first superhero movie that really showed that it works for Hollywood. It's an interesting point because this was actually considered a risk since previous superhero film attempts were not successful, and Raimi was primarily known for horror films such as The Grudge. The only thing scary about this film, though, turned out to be how big those profits were. Finally, we have an appearance from Tom Holland. Spider-Man Homecoming only came about once the entertainment juggernauts of Disney and Sony reached an agreement in regards to the Spider-Man property. This Uncle Ben-less iteration greatly benefited from the fantastical successes of the MCU and previous iterations of Spider-Man. The first Spidey film swung into theaters with $175 million backing it, and you guessed it, it made a slim profit, bringing in over $880 million to the box office. The peak of the Raimi trilogy is in second place with an $889 million box office, just from a $258 million budget. Spider-Man 3 was not supposed to actually be the end of the Raimi run, but the studio chose to meddle and force more villains to sell more toys. The big cast of villains also resulted from quite a long runtime, being over 2.5 hours. But when you have scenes of cinematic excellence like this, the Raimi run is definitely worth it. And here we have it. The top of the web. The highest grossing Spider-Man film so far. Marvel did not need the Peter Tingle to know that this movie was gonna do great. Spider-Man Far From Home takes our box office crown with a huge payday of $1.1 billion. This one had the ever-popular Tom Holland starring as a web slinger. Is it any real surprise, though, that this one sits up top? After all, this was the first Marvel movie to follow up the insanely popular Avengers Endgame. The audiences everywhere were definitely eager to see Peter Parker back in action once again. But wait, a new contender approaches. After all, the only person who can beat Tom Holland's Spider-Man is Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Spider-Man No Way Home is making a big swing in theaters right now. Will it take the crown or will it crash and burn? Probably not. Box office numbers are coming in right now. And if this is any indication, it's definitely going to be high on the list because it is starting off with a worldwide opening weekend of $600.8 million at the box office. Let us know what your favorite Spider-Man film is down in the comments below. Also, hit that subscribe button if you like content like this. For the Financial Fixation, I'm Dominic, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.